I'm going to show you guys my top 10 books of 2022. There are so many good ones in here, and I feel like you guys are going to literally fall in love with everything that I read. There's tons of Black authors, lots of like romances, a little thrillers thrown in here, but pretty much just romances because you guys know that's my vibe. And yeah, if you guys want to see more book related content, I will link all my book videos below. I upload videos 3 times a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So yeah, let's just get into all of these books. I'm gonna share these books from pretty much number 10 all the way up to number 1, which is like obviously my favorite book that I read in 2022. But the first book that I read that I really loved was Baggage Claim. And this is coming in at number 10. This is like a whole fake dating trope, and pretty much she tells her family that she has a boyfriend and is gonna come home with a boyfriend for the holidays, and meets a guy on the plane and is like, hey, like, you know, I have this like dilemma, and he's like, oh, I'll be your boyfriend. And she like doesn't really like Christmas, so he shows her all these Christmassy things, and he's very like happy, and she kind of is like timid, and it's just really beautiful because you get to see like how much she changes by the end of the book. So this is coming in at number 10. Such a great holiday read, but also really good just for like the cold winter months like right now. This is another holiday read, and this is coming in at number 9, and I think I like this one so much because I feel like it really teaches you that in life there's so many different things that could happen, and there's so many different like paths you can take, but wherever you end up is kind of like where you're meant to be in a way. And this book is pretty much about a girl who she goes to like this cabin every single year, and she's always like really had feelings for this one guy who goes to the cabin. It's like a family trip, and there's like lots of other families that go on this trip, but she's like never told him, and pretty much she really relives the same day over and over and over again until she like gets it right. And it has a lot of twists and turns in it, and I actually didn't really get bored at all of the like storyline like being replayed over and over again, because I feel like I learned something about her in every storyline. And I don't know, I feel like this is a really good holiday read because you kind of learn a lot about just how to be in the moment a little bit more and not like plan so much for life, because wherever you end up is really like where you're meant to be. This was a really sweet read. It is coming in at number 8, and I think I really liked it because both characters in this book were so different. Augustus, he writes literary fiction, and then January, she writes best-selling romance novels. And pretty much for someone who loves books, I think this is a great book to read because you see how there's so much beauty in both types of like writing. And I don't know, I just thought it was really cute, and obviously seeing a romance between 2 like writers is really cute, and they like go on these little adventures together because they're trying to show each other how there's like beauty within their type of writing, so they kind of like fall for each other in that way. And I read this earlier in the year, and I remember really loving it, and it would be a great read for I think vacation on the beach, but also just like reading it literally at home, because they're literally not on a beach, so I don't know why it's called beach read. They're neighbors, but they're like on the water, so I think that maybe is where that comes from. But either way, this is a really great book to read. Coming in at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is another holiday book, and I know that there's kind of mixed reviews on this. There's a ton of people who love this book, but there's also some people who just like didn't really care for it. And this is different than my typical writing. It's another like holiday book, but it also is like over the span of 10 years, so I think you can really read it at any point in time. But I think what I love most about this book is there's so much growth in these characters. Like, I feel like I didn't just learn about the 2 main characters, I learned about like so many different types of people. And pretty much this girl named Lori, she sees a guy on a bus, and she like pretty much falls in love with him at first sight, which is kind of like fantastical in a way, which I think is the point. And then years later, her best friend's like, I want to introduce you to my new like guy that I'm dating, and she gets introduced to the guy she saw on the bus, and they like made eye contact on the bus, and they both were kind of like love at first sight type vibes. Well, I literally can't talk. So this whole time she like has feelings for her friend's boyfriend, but she like doesn't want to say anything. She's like, I've literally never met this guy. Like, I saw him on a bus, like he was outside the bus, I was in the bus, like what if we didn't even vibe, like whatever. So then like you literally see it over a 10-year period, like all the stuff that happens in Lori's life, all the stuff that happens in her best friend's life, and there's just like so many different like characters that are added into the story. And I think it's a really, really good story about growth, because you see the characters from the beginning kind of being just like giddy little like schoolgirl type, like wanna like have crazy parties type vibe, and then as they get older they're literally like grown-ups, and you see like marriage and just like the characters in this, I think they have so much growth, and I think it shows a lot about how you can grow and change so much over time. So yeah, I really love this one. It was such a good book. Coming in at number 6 is 7 Days in June, which is a book about 2 Black characters and also written by a Black author, which I literally fell in love with. And I've been reading so much more like literature and like romances and things by like Black authors who write about Black people. It's literally become my favorite thing, and I feel like I have Black TikTok to thank for that, because it's really hard to find good book recs, because I feel like a lot of people don't read like diverse literature. Anyway, that's a whole nother video, but this book was really, really good. I think I liked it so much because it talked a lot about working through generational trauma, and there's a lot of heavy topics in this, but pretty much 2 of these characters, they have been secretly writing about each other. They're both writers, and they've been secretly writing about each other in each other's pieces of work, but it's kind of like a second chance love, and it has so much depth to it. I think that you definitely have to have your heavy armor on for this, because they like work through a lot, but Eva, she's a single mom, and so you get to hear about all the struggles she went through and how she was able to overcome them. And Shane, he also has his own set of troubles, and they kind of, when they were younger, worked through a lot of the struggles they went through together, but then as they got older, something like pulled them apart, and you'll learn about that in the book. But it's such a beautiful story about like healing and growth, and I just really, really love this one. This was one of my favorite thrillers that really kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time that I read it, and I think it's because it's so unorthodox, and it's pretty much, I don't want to say too much, but Marissa and Matthew, they seem like they have it all together, but then you find out that Marissa, she cheated on Matthew, and it literally says that in the front of the book, so I'm not like giving away anything. And Marissa, she wants to repair the relationship pretty much just for their 8-year-old son, because she like, you know, really wants to keep the family together. So they get this therapist, Avery Chambers, who is so unorthodox. She's like very, very unique. She lost her license because she has like such weird tactics to make like relationships either work or whatever, and it is literally wild. It says it doesn't stop her from counseling those in crisis even though she doesn't have her license, and they have to adhere to her unorthodox methods. And even though like she doesn't have her license, like she gets so many clients because like people are desperate, and she literally makes them do like crazy things, and she does crazy things. And the ending was wild for me, and I had no idea where it was gonna go, and I was so surprised. And I think that this is a really good thriller. It's the only thriller that I actually have in my top 10. I read a lot of thrillers last year, but this was the only one that was in my top 10. I feel like if it's a thriller, I don't want anything gory. I don't want anything like that's gonna be like give me nightmares, you know? Like I don't want it to be scary. I want it to be thrilling but not scary, and I think that this is the perfect dose of that. So yeah, this one is a great thriller if you're looking for a good one. Coming in at number 4 is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover, and I actually don't have this book because one of my friends is borrowing it. But this book is so beautiful, and it's one of the few books that's actually made me bawl my eyes out like ever. And this year I didn't really cry for a lot of books, especially because romance, I feel like I just have read so many different like tropes and storylines. It takes a lot for me to cry, and I literally was bawling. And pretty much this book is about a girl who she has done something that is really the unspeakable. It is kind of like terrible, and she ends up going to prison. She ends up getting out, but she is trying to get reunited with her child. And I'm not a big like person who's like into books about like mothers or children or whatever. I don't have children of my own, so I feel like, I don't know, it has to be written in a way that I don't get like a motherly instinct to like connect with the book. And I think that Colleen Hoover did a great job of helping us see how the main character felt, even if we didn't have children, so that we could also resonate or relate with her feelings. So pretty much she's trying to get her daughter back, and she meets this guy that she like really likes, and come to find out he's also connected to like some of the things that happened in her past. And it is a incredible book. You kind of, I think, end up loving her and feeling like she needs her daughter back, but then you also, when you find out like what happened, you kind of like hate what she did and understand why she's like treated the way that she was treated. So I feel like it's a really big lesson on like mistakes and how you can learn from them and be a better person, but also how like we're not guaranteed for forgiveness, and how, I don't know, just like life can take us on a crazy journey. And I don't know, I feel like the author really did a good job of making the character lovable, but also making the things that she did kind of unlovable. And I love that because like humans are messy, and I just thought it was a really good one. Coming in at number 8 is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, and this I think was a book that I wasn't really sure about. I've read 2 Jasmine Guillory books, but this was my very first one. I've read Drunk on Love, and I've read I think it's called The Wedding Proposal, and those are both also really good. But this one, there's something magical about it. It actually, I think, yeah, it's from, on the back it says www.disneybooks.com. So I think like there's definitely some connection to Disney, and it definitely plays on like the Beauty and the Beast type story, but it's almost like a retelling with like 2 Black main characters. And I just thought it was so cute. Look at the cover. Pretty much this girl right here, she works at a publishing company, and this guy, he said he has wanted to write a book, and they've been trying to get him to write this book for so long. And he's like this super like rich, like famous guy, but he like holes up in his house all the time and like doesn't go anywhere, and you don't really know why until like later. So she works for the publishing company, and her boss is kind of like the worst, and she tells her boss like, hey, I think I can get this guy to like write his book. And like they've been trying for so long, and the boss is like, okay, sure you can. So she drives to his house, and he was pretty much like, yeah, I'll write it, but you have to like stay here and like pretty much help me. And because she had said like, I'll help you like whatever you need, and he was like, well, I need you to stay here. And she was like, live here? So she ends up like living there, and she kind of like hates him in like the Beauty and the Beast type vibe, like hating him but loving him, and like seeing the things that he's like working through. And I don't know, they end up like falling for each other, and it's very, very beautiful. And I think it's just like a really cool story because it has that kind of like Disney like beautiful vibe. And I also don't think there's like spice in here, or at least not a ton. I could be wrong. Actually, I could be very wrong, because I feel like Jasmine Guillory always has spice in her books, so maybe there's like a little bit. But I just remember this book being like really happy and like a fun read. And I feel like it's hard sometimes to find books about Black characters where there isn't like a heavy dose of trauma, and I feel like this book didn't really have a ton of that, so it was just like a very happy and good read. Coming in at number 2 is Honey and Spice, and I've talked about this book so much that you guys are probably like so tired of it, but I just fell in love with this book. Kiki and Malachi are just like such an incredible, like, I don't know. Anyway, don't want to like tell it too much of the story, but pretty much Kiki, she's in college. It's like a college love story, and she pretty much keeps her distance from people because she feels like if people know her too well, they'll like eventually like stop liking her. But she's like really well liked on campus, but people just aren't like super close with her. And she has this like radio show where she like, I think she gives advice, I think that's what it is. I forget like exactly like what she does initially, and then she ends up like changing the radio show a little bit. But there's pretty much like a whole fake dating trope in this entire book, and I think that it is beautiful. I also love how Kiki's very different. Like you end up finding out that she likes role play at what's it called, conventions and things, and like anime, and like just different things that I feel like you don't hear a lot about with Black characters. And then I think Malachi is an incredible character because I feel like he does a very good job of like communicating, and I feel like sometimes in love stories you just get terrible communication, and that is like one of the worst things ever. So I just really like that, and I feel like it made me love the characters even more. This last book is definitely number 1, and I think I love this one so much because, for one, the main characters, Macy and Elliot, they love reading books, and they kind of build their love on their love for books and their love for reading. And it is a beautiful story. It gives me the vibes of like remember when you had your first boyfriend, or like your first crush, first love, and you're like learning like your body and learning about who you are, and like learning just like all those like small things. I feel like this book has all that encapsulated into it. It's a love story, but I think it's told over like many years. But it's like a second chance type romance. Like they separate for some reason that you end up finding out, I think, and then like rekindle later on, but you don't really know why. And the way that Elliot speaks about Macy is literally picturesque. Like, it's so beautiful. And I just couldn't get over how like cute of a couple they are. And it just, I don't know, it talks so much about like growing pains and like as you grow up, going through like that whole like not knowing who you are and then figuring it out. It talks a lot about that. And it's just such a cute book. So definitely read this one. This is for sure my number one, 5 out of 5. And I literally have only rated 2 books 5 out of 5 literally ever in life, and this is one of them, and the other one is Before I Let Go, which will be in my wrap up for this month because I just finished reading it. But yeah, you guys have got to read this one. It is so incredible. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video with all of these book recs and my top 10 books for 2022. I think that 2022 was a great year for reading, but I definitely didn't read as much as I wanted to because I kept letting things get in the way. But I actually am filming a video right now of me waking up at 5 a.m. just to read, because I wanted to make sure that this year in 2023 I spent more time reading. So if you guys want to see that video, definitely check back. I think that one should be up on Saturday, and I'm really excited for it because it's like kind of a unique reading vlog, because obviously I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and every day, and it's very hard to do, but I do end up reading a lot. So if you guys want to see more reading videos, be sure to subscribe and follow me over on Instagram and follow me over on TikTok as well, because I just love talking about books and I can't stop talking about it on any platform that I'm on. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.